Welcome back. Today's video is about real estate wholesaling. As a real estate broker selling over $20 million in real estate every single year, and this year we might be on track for $30 million in personal real estate sales. I deal with a lot of wholesalers, so I've got some great insights for you. Watch through this video and this is what you're gonna take away. What wholesaling is, how people make money wholesaling, how wholesaling fails, and the alternatives to wholesaling real estate. Just to note, this video is part of the Providing More playlist, which is mostly just me sitting here and talking to you, which is a whole lot less editing, and I am thankful for that, especially after the Brian Casala video, which I am also very thankful for your support on. That video got over 23,000 views in the first 12 hours. It was mind-blowing. I've never seen the bar go like, woo! That was really, really cool. Thank you. It's since calmed down. But I haven't. Now, what is real estate wholesaling? Wholesaling is the ultimate arbitrage. Real estate wholesaling is best exemplified. Let's go with an example where Betty Lou needs to sell a house for $100,000. She thinks her house is worth $100,000, but then somebody like, let's say, Tai Lopez comes around who knows in the back of his mind that the house is actually worth $150,000 in the exact condition that it's in. But Betty Lou doesn't necessarily know the market, she doesn't have access to the internet, and Tai makes her an offer for $90,000. Betty says, hey, I wanted 100, 90, that's pretty close, let's make a deal. So Tai Lopez, being a buyer or wholesaler, just established a contract where he was able to buy a house that is essentially worth $150,000 on the open market, which, by the way, the open market would be the multiple listing service which automatically syndicates with the Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, Redfin, so on and so forth, the hundreds of other websites that exist out there. That is when you are on the market and exposed to the most amount of buyers. If you're only exposed to one person, then you're not on the market. Now, Tai Lopez, no relation to anyone else I know, these are all made up names, knows this back knowledge that this $90,000 house now in escrow is actually worth $150,000. Betty don't know that. So Tai promises Betty a very smooth transaction. They sign a contract with, let's say, a $5,000 deposit. Tai writes a check to a neutral third party that's going to protect his $5,000 investment into the deal, so to speak, until either Tai removes all of his contingencies or rights to cancel, like inspections, loans, appraisals, whatever, or the deal closes or consummates, finishes. As soon as Tai Lopez has a signed contract, Betty Lou can no longer sell the house to anybody else. So what that means is, if Betty Lou is in escrow or in a transaction to sell her house for $90,000, and then a neighbor hears, wait, you sold your house for $90,000? Well, heck, I know it's worth $150 on the market. I'll give you $120 right now. Betty can't sell it. The person wanting to offer more money. She signed a contract to sell her house. She's trapped into that contract as long as Tai abides by the terms in the contract, which wholesalers write the contract so they make the terms favorably enough to know that they can manipulate the game. We're not going to go into those exact contractual details here, and you'll see why. Now, let's say Tai sets up a 90-day escrow. In theory, Tai now has 60 days to market the property, find a buyer willing to pay $150,000 for the property because he locked it up for less than market value. And then he could do one of two things. Number one, he could assign the contract to that new buyer. I generally don't see that happen because it flushes out the ruse, right? All of a sudden now all of the parties know, and Betty's going, wait a minute, you're giving the contract to him and you're collecting all this extra money? I'm getting cooked. So usually what they do is called a double escrow. That is, Tai purchases the property from Betty and only has that $5,000 deposit, sells it to somebody else, has the escrow coordinated so that the second sale closes on the same day as the first sale, so that the money coming from the second new sale goes to the escrow company, and actually they use that money to close the deal on the first. So they never had to touch any of the money. Don't worry if you don't understand how to make that contractual part work, whether you're assigning a contract or doing a double escrow. It's really a topic for a different video, but quite frankly, I think after I make this video, there won't be a need for that topic. Now, let's say Tai Lopez sells this property to somebody called Robert Evans for $150,000. After fees, Tai Lopez, as the wholesaler, stands to net, there's a gross profit of $60,000, but stands to net, let's just say to make math easy, $50,000. If that double escrow or that assignment happens, Tai can walk away with $50,000 and make a pretty good chunk of change for not doing too much work. In traditional wholesaling, the retail client or the wedding venue perceives a benefit. They don't have to deal with China, they don't have to go to China, they don't have to verify materials, quantities, they don't have to deal with tariffs, imports, duties, parcels, they don't have to deal with any of that. They place the order, product shows up, and they can focus on selling more weddings, which is more important to their bottom line by increasing their top line. That's like a Grant Cardone line right there. So in this model, the producer, the manufacturer wins, the retailer at the end, the wedding store wins, and the wholesaler actually provided a legitimate service and also collects a fee. So you've got a win-win-win deal. In real estate wholesaling, the producer of the product, in this case Betty Lou, the seller of the house, loses out on about $50,000 of market value on the property she's selling. Ooh. That same $50,000, the wholesaler's net profit. The buyer, Robert Evans in this case, doesn't perceive much benefit, and there may even be a disservice to Robert Evans. See, here's the kicker. Betty Lou, the producer, was not provided with a service. Instead, she was provided with a disservice. She was not given the information that the wholesaler knew, that the property was underpriced, and instead, she was essentially robbed of her fair market value of her property to line the pockets of the wholesaler. Not a really good way to establish a reputation, because guess what? Friends and neighbors usually help people figure out when scams are going on, because come on, everybody kind of knows what real estate properties are. It's not that hard to figure out how much a property's worth, at least ballpark. But some people without access to the internet or the savvy are classic victims for wholesaling. And I say victims because realistically, it's a scam when you take market value away from people. You're not providing a service. Now, had she put the property on the market directly onto the multiple listing service so that it was fully available to any buyer, Robert Evans would have probably bought the property as well for $150,000. In this case, however, rather than there being a wholesaler who's in the middle depressing market value on one side and then selling it for market value on the other side, profiting the difference, there would be real estate agents involved that would take a small fee, generally 2.5% to each side, which in this example would total $7,500, not $50,000. But instead, our fictional Ty Lopez convinces Betty Lou not to put the property on the market, locks up the property under contract at an artificially low price, and profits the difference himself by establishing himself as the seller of a property he technically doesn't own. And the disclosure laws related to this are pretty blurry anyway. So Betty loses, Ty wins a lot, and Robert Evans, the buyer, he probably loses as well, even though he's paying the same amount for the property. And it doesn't technically seem like he's losing anything. He loses the advising nature of a real estate agent providing proper disclosure from Betty Lou's side, and the professional advice and guidance from Betty Lou's side, and possibly also loses the advice and guidance of a buyer's agent. This gets complicated. We could go on forever about the little minutia of agents being involved and things like that, but that's not the point. The whole point of this is real estate wholesaling relies on the premise of a scam. It relies on taking advantage of uninformed people to sell a property for a profit and pocket the difference. Now stick around because we're going to talk about how people make money from wholesaling, but first, let's clear up the difference. In traditional wholesaling, the producer gains the benefit of more customers. The manufacturer gains more customers, more products to produce. The retailer gains the products they need to provide their customers the service they need, and the wholesaler makes it all happen and facilitates the process, collecting a fee. In real estate wholesaling, the producer of real estate, Betty Lou, gets screwed out of market value. The buyer typically gets screwed out of proper disclosure, and the only person who really walks away like a king is the wholesaler. Now here are the 3 ways people make money wholesaling real estate. Number 1, they have to be really, really good at finding off-the-market deals and taking advantage of these owners to put these properties on the market again and resell them. They may also take advantage of real estate agents who will agree to bring these deals to the wholesaler first and offer the wholesaler some side kickback money, which is totally illegal, for the promise of not putting properties on the market and instead bringing them to the wholesaler first. Pretty shady. This is why wholesalers generally don't stay in business very long. Not a good way to build a reputation. The second way wholesalers make money is they somehow figure out to remarket a property that has been inappropriately listed. For example, let's say a house is accidentally listed as a condo. Not always, but that could mean that property is not showing up in the correct searches or portals, or the photography's poor, or whatever, and the market depresses the value of that property because it's not really properly marketed. This is a lot harder for a wholesaler to take advantage of, but then if a wholesaler comes in and properly markets the property, they might be able to expand the existing buyer pool and find somebody to take advantage of that difference in payment again, where the wholesaler buys it low, artificially low, by essentially providing the service that a real estate agent does, but backhandedly doing so and charging way more than a real estate agent does, and reselling the property to somebody else. Another way this might work in the favor of a wholesaler is, let's say they locked up a property December 10th and they found a buyer January 20th and they had, say, a 90-day escrow going on or something to that effect. There's a chance the wholesaler might be able to take advantage of sort of the post-holiday buying rush, and prices might be a little higher in January. This really relies on market appreciation though, so that's why this number 2 is much harder in terms of making money in wholesaling. Number 1 is generally what you hear about. Number 3, this is the biggest way people make money wholesaling real estate. They make videos telling you they made $10,000 a month wholesaling real estate, and then they sell you a course so that you too can learn how to do basically what I just outlined for you and scam innocent people who are unaware of what the market value truly is of their property. I don't know if I've said this before, but it's not a good way to build a reputation. 3 reasons wholesaling real estate often fails. Number 1, the market. As soon as a property is on the market, it becomes very, very difficult to tell the market not to buy a property so you could depress the value of a property and buy it. Generally, when a property is on the market and it's priced correctly, it sells. If a property is on the market and it's underpriced, it sells really fast. Number 2 way real estate wholesaling fails, the agents flush you out. The really good agents will A, always put a property on the market, B, verify your proof of funds even if you fabricate it, and or 3, they'll make sure that the pre-approval letter you give saying, oh yeah, I'm qualified to buy the house, is actually legitimate by verifying so with the bank. Great agents will also pay special attention to your contingency periods. So if you go in saying, I'm going to do my inspections for 17 days, and you haven't found a buyer yet, that agent can kick you out of the deal on day 18. Wholesalers often come to me and try to ask for 30 or 60-day inspection contingencies so that they have plenty of time to cancel the deal and still get their deposit money back. This generally stands out like a sore thumb. It usually never works out, and it's the very, very rare time that a seller actually signs one of these contracts. We just had somebody try to pull that off on us. They were the only buyer available, so the seller went into escrow with them, and guess what? They lost their $5,000 deposit because they get screwed by the terms of the contract, because they couldn't find a replacement buyer for the property. And I made sure their $5,000 was at risk because I wanted to flush out whether or not they were wholesalers. I had a little bit of faith when they said, okay, we'll give you the $5,000. I'm like, okay, Mr. Seller, maybe they're not a wholesaler, because usually people won't do that, and because they probably ended up being wholesalers and couldn't make it happen, they lost their $5,000, and the seller's happy you got an extra $5,000. Number 3, people who want the appearance of a quick and smooth sale and are willing to sell their properties for depressed prices can often resort now to features like Open Door, Zillow Instant Offers, Redfin Now, whatever. All this new crap that basically allows people to sell their properties to these online companies for dirt cheap so that those companies can charge very large fees and then flip the properties and make a profit. Now here's my advice to wholesaling real estate. Number 1, don't do it. Number 2, if you like real estate investing, watch my other videos to learn how to get started in real estate investing. Number 3, if you want to provide a service and become a real estate agent, then you should focus first on how you can provide the best possible customer service to your clients, because that's what's going to create the best reputation for you. Wholesaling real estate creates a bad reputation for you, and you won't be in the business very long, because it should be your goal to sell properties for market value or more than market value, because then you're the hero. I've never seen a successful wholesaler. They usually self-destruct.